Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after all the snaking drama of the last several days, Cellium has had his final word on the topic and said that after all the last several years where snaking has been a big talking point, he was never requested once by any other player to stop snaking. This contradicts somewhat with some statements that have been made over the last couple of years by even the likes of Slasher, who was Cellium's former teammate in the most recent season. Scrappy and Pred also having a bit of beef going down as well. Loads to dive into today. Very much enjoy your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, this is seemingly going to be the new Operator CDL skin that arrives into the game. It's probably going to come in, it's the 4th today. The 6th is when Season 1 or whatever launches. Warzone and stuff arrives with that. So, yeah, this is going to be the skin it looks like. It's, like, I don't know, it's kind of dull. Maybe it's better than some of the other ones we've had. I'm guessing that at some point the CDL skins are going to go into the game as well for the teams. I mean, really, you'd like that to be by the time the CDL launches in a couple of days. It probably won't be, but I guess it is what it is. But maybe this is better than some of the ones we've seen so far, and I guess it's only a matter of time until the actual team skins arrive into the game. But at this point, I'm not holding my breath for anything, to be honest, with the way things have gone recently. Also, this is the bit of beef here really between Scrap and Pred. So Scrapper at TJ and puts the picture of Pred in there, and Pred's like, get your impressions up long neck. It's going to be exciting. We know full well that OpTic versus OpTic versus Toronto has always been a good rivalry over the last couple of years. Certainly Cold War, that was the case. Nowadays, very much different teams, but we have Pred and Scrappy always going at it a little bit. How good are Ultra going to be? That's a question. We've seen some rumours on this over the last couple of days. Drazah has made this point as well, that as far as he's concerned, at least as of about a week ago, Drazah said that Toronto were the best team they'd played. But in fairness, that was before they played up against OpTic, right? So we don't know, and OpTic apparently played pretty well in that scrim. So of the top teams, I would say that FaZe and Ultra right now are looking like probably the two best, I would say, and I would expect them as it stands to be the strongest teams that we find out there. But, you know, OpTic, given the fact that they started scrims a little bit later, and there were rumours that they'd played FaZe the other day very competitively, that would kind of imply that OpTic is certainly getting there as well. New York have had, we don't see everything, we don't really know until this Friday what actually is going to happen come matches, especially when most of what we see is hardpoints, and a lot of the time the hardpoints are getting split. The only real dominant, series we've seen is when FaZe played Temp's roster, basically 100-point club in most of the maps. So, that shows one thing, but also Search and Destroy is also 2 of the 5 maps in a series, and there's Control, of which we really don't know what's going on. So you can look at scrims all you like and look at some of the results and see that, okay, New York are maybe splitting maps more so that with teams you might not expect them to necessarily at this point in the season as the reigning world champions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't just nasty in Search, and of course that's a very big factor when it comes to actually winning series, especially online series. But yeah, this clip is quite a bit old now, where Drazah said that Ultra is looking the best of the teams they played, but he said in the clip, like, we haven't played OpTic yet, and then they played OpTic a couple of days later, so kind of gives you some indication what's going on. But the feeling is that as it stands, the top 4 teams, and I think they will be the top 4 teams over the course of the year, but for now they might not be. I think FaZe and Ultra probably 1-2. OpTic can't be that far behind. They seem to be catching up quite quickly. New York, we don't really know. And then, there's definitely dark horse teams. Surge, Thieves. We talked about Skump's perspective on those rosters earlier today as possibilities to be competitive this year. This I thought you guys also might find interesting, right? So these are Dashy's kind of like stats, his accuracy stats and stuff like this. So Dashy's rocking like a 2.4, and then he goes through his accuracy stats, and I mean, these are pretty absurd, I'm not gonna lie. His accuracy is like 50%. We know that accuracy, it doesn't mean that much because Vivid every year tops the accuracy stats, it seems, in the CDL. But if you try and wallbang anything, your accuracy, goes down a cliff. But yeah, his stats are like 50%. So if you want to kind of know where the gold standard is in terms of shooting well in Call of Duty, you're talking like 50% accuracy with some of these weapons, which is higher than I've really seen in a very long time. But yeah, this is how straight Dashy shoots, I suppose. Not 100% sure what class he's using, but I know there has been some changes to the general meta over the last couple of days. This is the one that Arcetes is using at the moment, which it seems most are potentially adapting to. So not much has changed. You've still got a sight, the Mark III reflector, the slate reflector, whatever you guys want to use. The the billeted break on the barrel, the cyclone long, or the billeted break on the muzzle, the cyclone long barrel, the 16.5 inch, the Regal heavy stock. It's all the same stuff. But they used to use the high grain ammunition. That's now gone. They used to use the PSL rear grip, and now they seem to be using the DR6 hand stop. So basically all these top 4 attachments are the same every time, and they keep messing around a little bit with the final attachment. So this is the one that Arceus is currently using and seems to be doing him pretty well. Also, this I wanted to mention is a spot which is available on Skid Row. I saw definitely Tupac Thuglords, right, analyst for FaZe, use this spot. We are on B-bomb site here on Skid Row, and we've gone into the back spawn building, where you can then see and wallbang with apparently no penalty at all through this wall. I mean, this guy's proper cheesing it. Look at him. He's like snaking this heady as well, and then drops down and gets the final kill. So this apparently is now like a banned spot on CMG. I don't know what they're going to do for this in the league, because, you know, how, let's say Mikado, those spots were, no, the wallbang spots on that map were similar in many ways, and they were known about, and they were able to be used. But it's like, when things like this get discovered, they can kind of ruin the game. Like, the idea that you can defend the bomb site from that spot with not even having to peek the bomb is like, it shouldn't be a thing, and the developers need to fix it. But if they don't fix it within 3 days, which they won't, you'd imagine, then what does that mean for the league? Are the league going to say, look, you can't use that, it's a cheese spot, but it was allowed on Mikado, so yeah, I think expect to see this in this year's CDL, at least for the time being. Now, let's talk about some of this snaking drama then. So for the last several days, it's been a big talking point among the pros. What's going on with snaking? How do we GA it? And also, where did it come from initially? We've seen some of the beef over the last few days between Octane and Cellium, where Cellium has said, no, Octane's just saying that I caused it over the last several years because he's trying to get, you know, clout or whatever, basically from the flank chat. That's the point that Cellium made. Octane said, well, you know, I've thought this way for years, and I'm not going to change my opinion. That's what we talked about yesterday. But Cellium then kind of doubled down on exactly what's happened on this front for the last several years. And to be honest, the implication of what Cellium says is, which is a good implication, that if it had been requested of him not to snake, then he would have done so. Which implies that going forward, given the fact that snaking is now GA'd and FaZe have agreed to it, that he's not going to break this GA. That's definitely the implication of what Cellium says, is that, well, sure, if they'd have requested me to stop snaking previously, I would have done so, and therefore now it has been officially requested and agreed by the teams. The implication is certainly that Cellium will not be intending to break that GA at all this season, which, you know, we'll see how that goes, because I'm sure there will be questions raised at some point this year, and there obviously has been talk about, well, you know, put Cellium in a 1v1, Game 5, Round 11, what's going to happen? You know, hopefully he won't snake it, and according to what he says, so that he won't be. But what's been raising questions here is Cellium's perception on exactly what's happened over the last several years. We know this tweet's been going around from Octane that, you know, basically just putting it all on Cell, and if Cell stopped doing it, everybody would stop doing it. But the question has been for the last several years that why hasn't this happened until now? Because it seemingly has been an intention for the last few titles to stop people snaking, to agree as a community not to do so. And I think the general feeling has been that, well, you know, we could try and agree, but Cellium and FaZe will just say no. And FaZe are so good that we can't really blacklist them. And that was the feeling for the last few years. You know, Cold War snaking was an issue for a large part of it. You know, Vanguard, and then most recently Modern Warfare 2 was a massive issue for the entire season that was never really resolved. So you would think that at some point during the last several years, Cellium has been around since 2019, really, the Black Ops 4 season, that someone would have said to Cell, hey, you know, do you mind not snaking anymore? And if you were to agree, then the rest of the league would agree. But Cellium says that he's never been asked to stop snaking, which is, look, I don't know what you guys think about this. It's interesting with Cell, like, because I mean, look, there's people that say that they have asked this, and I don't know exactly, you know, who's right on this one. I'm intrigued to your perspective in the comments below, because I'll share a tweet here in a second. He also mentions the formal story. You guys probably know the formal story. This is where the You Can Do It Too phase up think over. It was like a pre-Black Ops 4 boot camp where supposedly Cellium was on the other side and he was snaking something, and then he, you know, did the phase up and You Can Do It Too. That's the story that Formal came up with. Now, that was actually never true, and it was confirmed not that long after that, you know, that was like a fabricated story, but a pretty funny story, obviously. But that's kind of like a known thing, and, you know, so Cellium says that that was never true. Like, that story didn't exist, but no one ever asked me to stop.
Hey, bro. I have never been asked to stop snaking ever. Like the stories that Formal shit, whatever. Like, obviously, all of you guys know it's fake, like the fake story. But it's actually hilarious reading comments saying that like he actually said that shit when that shit never happened. Listen, I have never got a DM personally from any player.
What's Berg doing?
From any player in my career to stop snaking. I've never been told in person to stop snaking. Never been told Twitter or like the DMs obviously stop snaking. Our teams agreed to GA snaking in the past, and we'd agreed to it. And people would snake, and then people would be like, "What the?" And then we'd start snaking back. So that's how shit would go. Our team has never said no to a snake GA, bro.
So this again is from the false narrative thread back in 2021, because it was the main talking point in the early parts of 2021, what was going on with snaking, and the rumor was at the time that somebody had asked FaZe to ask Cellium. I think that was the rumor, that they hadn't spoken to Cell directly, but they'd like talked to Simp and said, look, Simp, can you please tell Cell to stop snaking? And then, you know, apparently he then said, no, we're still doing it, boys, and they kept on going. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. We never got any statements on it. But Cellium is clearly now saying that none of that ever occurred, and he was never asked by anyone in DMs or elsewhere to stop snaking, which I have a hard time believing, to be honest, especially when Slasher says this. This is a tweet from March the 2nd, 2021. Like, you know, Simp says, of course, defending his teammate. Snaking has been a thing for years. To say he's the stem of it, it's BS, because if it was just him, you guys all would have taken care of it when he joins the league. But as Slasher says at the time, of course, he went on to team with him, and now not the case anymore. It is legit just the truth. Whether you guys accept it or not, it's on you. We roasted him and told him multiple times to stop. So, you know, is that, you know, just the community? Is that players? But, you know, Slasher says that as a community, they told Cell multiple times to stop, either directly to him or via his teammates or whatever. And Slasher says this worked with everybody else, such as Josiah, that being slacked back in World War II, like it was a bit of an issue in World War II. Slacked was doing a bit of it, and they told him to stop doing it multiple times. He eventually did. Same with Splice and Infinite Warfare. However, he, Cellium, continued to do it, and we don't really want to have to blacklist. We should, though. So, you know, we see a lot of the similar trends in 2021 occurring now at the end of 2023. But yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, Slasher, this statement directly contradicts what Cellium has said. But maybe it doesn't massively matter, and I think the good part of what Cellium is saying here is basically like, well, you know, if I was asked, then I would do so, and now it has been agreed, and therefore, you know, the assessment would be that Cell is therefore going to stop for the rest of the season. So we'll see if that actually is upheld. Just before we close out, wanted to mention this. Pros that have won the most opening lands in COD history. There's been a few, actually. Cellium has won 2 alongside Simp and aBeZy and Arcetes, let's say, with that FaZe team back in the day. But, you know, of course, MW19 was a bit interesting. Huntsman and FaZe both had different opening events, so they kind of won both. But, yeah, Scump leads the way with 5. Of course, he's not competing anymore. There are a few, you know, Dashy's won 2 in BO4 and Vanguard. Kind of funny, both of Dashy's event wins have been opening season events. So we'll see what happens come Major 1. And there's a few active pros that have won a single opener. Clay back in Ghost, Slasher, Accuracy, Kenny, Envoy, Illy, and Shotzzy have all won some opening tournament at the start of the season. But very much intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.